increase more knowledge in a way of the universal level and not on the matter level of the mankind, we come and we encounter new ways of using our own physical body. As it was said, I made man in the image of myself. So, in fact, up to now, we knew about the man, the physicality of the man, and the emotion of the man. And as in teaching of the past, we always said, in the universal level, as is made in the image of myself, means there is more for man to know, more about his own creator, more about how his creation has appeared, and what is the connection between what he has in the physical dimension and what he has had all the time in the dimension of the strength of the soul. In a way, we have one common ground with a translator or converter or inverter. That is the brain of the man. And what we start teaching is what happens, what other knowledges are available to the soul without or before is inverted or converted, that the soul of the physicality of the man can translate it for the physical body of the man to live by. In the past time, we had the prophets in any shape or name or form. And in that process, they always taught the man the process of understanding in a physical condition and what was something in the background that it was controlling it all. We call it the soul. We call it the Holy Ghost. Anything we wanted, we attached name to it. But in fact, without confirming that it's part of us. And if we understood that what is made in the image of myself is, as we said, we know 5 of the emotions, 6 of the emotions. Happiness, joy, sadness, whatever. Now we understood in the past few weeks, there is the emotion of presence. There is the emotion of understanding of transformation and transition in any dimension. There is a knowledge which is now is part of us. We have to elevate to understand more about our soul, to understand the 2 new emotions which we have introduced, which is common to us. Now we understand it, now we have to achieve it. One of the most important emotions of the man is the emotion of knowledge. You're born in our DNA, we take shape, we get constructed according to the environment that we live in and becomes our structure. Then the interaction of the collection of the fields of what makes us to interact with the environment, we call it the soul of the man. And this is what the man has been. Now we touch the soul of the creator of the soul of the man. What was created out of and led to his creation. And in that process, as we have the DNA of the physicality, now with a new understanding, we understand the DNA of the soul, the structure of the soul, the knowledge which sits behind its creation. The soul is not created on its own. It's a collection of the knowledge of the universe in one thing. How to position itself in respect to every other field in the universe. So it has a knowledge. And if one understands, becomes easier for mankind to reach the new level of elevation of the soul, understanding the dimension in a universal condition. What does this mean? It means within DNA, within RNA of our soul is the knowledge of the universe. We do not need to go to school. We do not need to go and put every cell of the man to become the cell of the eye, to be this color, to be that color. Because collective efforts of whatever our ancestors have put together in the dimension of physicality and the environment which we are born, we are preset to look Chinese. We don't get born as brown or black or blonde or white skin in China and then we change to become a Chinese looking. All is preset for our genes, for where we're going to be born, physical dimension, and our take, the intake of the knowledge, gives us the shape of the Chinese. Or what we understand now is the same is for the soul of the man. But this time the soul takes the shape, the form of the universe. And the knowledge we carried to be physically in the shape of a Chinese or European now is carried in the soul of the man, which means the soul has a shape, has a dimension, and has integral part that it remembers all the knowledge. How we remember when we are a certain age, we have to start moving. How we crawl at a certain age, we start speaking. At a certain age, we start thinking. At a certain age, we start communicating. And we choose the language just because we are born in the community of the same language. Now our soul is the same. I made man in the image of myself. But the image of the soul is representative and in the totality manifestation of the soul of the man in the universal community. How they see you. You have two lives, one in a physical dimension and one in the dimension of the soul. And now that inherent RNA and DNA of the soul of the man is what we start opening up. That the mankind understands the truth about himself. The truth about what capabilities he has that he didn't know. And one of them, as we said, was the emotion of the presence. Today we talk about the emotion of knowledge. Which means when mankind elevates to the position of peace and understanding that become part of universal community, he realizes he has access to the most vast amount of information about the universe. Because it's been put in there. It's always been there, but we did not know how to tap into it. In this way, with the knowledge of the universe, mankind does not need a school, does not need a prophet, does not need a guide, because the knowledge of the universe, how it is, how you interact, how you know where fields there are, you know where, in which part of the universe there's a problem not to come, not to be, or avoid, or to be. Therefore, as within our RNA and DNA, we carried the memory and the information of our ancestors. We don't touch certain things or we don't do certain things. In the memory and the bank of the RNA and DNA of the soul of the man, now we get access to the knowledge of the universe. What this means, it means man is much more intelligent if he decides to take the path of the soul. This is that what we call the day of judgment. This is the point where we decide to judge, to understand that we want to change the point of physicality to the point of the transformation and communication and the life of the soul, detached from physicality, where even in the dimension of the soul, you're still attached, but in a bigger dimension into the universe and universal community and collective field forces of the creation. But within your soul, you know exactly where you are. You know exactly what position you have. When you become in the dimension of the soul of the man, it's like you are a member of a family. You know your room. You know your place on the table when you sit. You know when to speak and you understand the structure of the totality, but you are part of totality. And now, that is where we take mankind to the knowledge of the universe. And this knowledge is within the soul of the man. And no one can tell you, I can show you, I can do this for you, I'm a prophet, and whatever. We don't have prophets when there is no money to take to be profited by. And in this process, we become all knowledge seekers. We seek knowledge of the universe, we seek knowledge of the creation, and once we learn instantaneously in what we analyze, become the knowledge of the totality. In a way, our knowledge is transparent. In a way, our knowledge is accessible to every created being in the universe. And there is so much knowledge, so much beauty, so much information that in a way we hardly move, because the adjustments are fine. The knowledge is so finely tuned that we continuously receive it. It's like an information bank. And in that bank sits the heart of the soul of the man. So many of you will ask what we'll do when we go to the dimension of the soul. At that point, the soul is knowledgeable, is omnipotent. In that point, the soul of the man is unique and has access directly through its structure of the fields to the Creator, as itself is part of his creation and Creator is part of him. This is why in the scripture says, if I tell you how beautiful the other side is, you all commit suicide. Which means you don't accept the dimension of the physicality as it's the prison and the barrier for you to reach the ultimate goal. Not that you want to run, but you want to be part of a bigger structure. You move out from the village of the earth to the dimension of the universal community. In so many ways, once you understand this, then you choose your soul where to manifest itself and where to be and where to be connected to. Who and where to be part of, and what to love and what to give and what to take. In so many ways, the knowledge of the universe, which becomes the knowledge of the man, has been hidden from the man up to now, as he could not handle the truth, the understanding of the totality. And from now on, not only for mankind, but for all the creatures of the universe, this become open at the point of inception. But there is one criteria to it which needs to be done. The first, as we say, sample needs to be made that the rest can be copied off. Creation in 2 dimensions of physicality and the soul in 1, that both are aware of. And this process will take place in coming months, that mankind will move into a new dimension. In a way, the intellect of the universe will become the intellect of the man. In so many ways, it means man will be given the library of the knowledge of the creation from the tongue and the time of the creation. Everything the Creator knows is accessible to man according to the strength of his understanding and the strength of his devotion to the creation and to the Creator in trying to serve and give from. That in the elevation of the soul, mankind or the soul of the man reaches more understanding of totality. And sometimes there is a need to make what we call collective adjustment, and this is the time for collective adjustment, that the totality of the soul of the man moves in one direction and in one dimension. We think we know the knowledge because we have to think what we have learned to add to the knowledge, when from then on, when it's born, has access to all the knowledge, every information. And this way, this is how it has been for many creatures and many, many, many times across the universe. If one race reaches the point of maturity, the knowledge has become available to all that creatures of that point and time. It's very much now like a computer. Everyone, according to their understanding, can use it, where 20 years, 30 years ago was something in the realm of fancy. Now we live through it and because of it. And it'll be the same. We live through the soul and use the physical body of the man or the physicality to manifest where we are, how we would like to be. Many of you in coming time will access the soul of the knowledge of the creation, and you can determine your own features, your own manifestation. You might want to change, but you'll find out you'll go back to the origin, because this is the way you became. This is the way you become from the totality to a part of the totality. In a way, if you were black skin and brown eyes and you always wanted to be blonde and to be blue eyes, that will be given to you through the knowledge of your own soul. But would you like to be the only blonde blue eye in the family of the black in Central Africa, where you think you have a privilege, but you find out you lose the love of the others, and you return back to, but you know you have the capability. Having the capability and understanding does not mean mankind in the level of his soul will use it, but what he'll do with it to create and enlighten himself, he can use it to elevate the others. The knowledge has to be the way I thought for years. Free, as I know, when I give the knowledge, is accessible by all the creatures of the universe. This is why in my teaching I always refer, I don't only teach to the man, but I teach to the universe. Maybe for the first time you understand why. As a soul, I'm connected to every created soul in the universe, and my knowledge becomes their knowledge. And you hear in the voice of the man, they see and they feel in the magnetic field energy of the thoughts. Then mankind become wise to one point. Why do we choose to manifest ourselves in the dimension of physicality the way we are? As I said many times, places like Earth are the nurseries of the creation of the seeds of the galaxies and the stars. Now you understand why. This is the point when you reach in that point of the strength of the soul, then the position by the soul has agreed on which table you sit at, in which part of the world you'll be, that you'll be the most effective and beneficial to the totality of the creation in the unicos. Up to now, you became a doctor to be useful in a hospital on this planet. Now in the dimension of the soul, you become the soul in the position that allows the other souls to prevail and to be given to be enlightened, and to be the position that you become the most effective in the condition of the creation for the rest of the souls. Is not sacrificing, is finding the position to be able to be part of elevation of the others. Detachment. Detachment from the knowledge. Detachment from financial things. Detachment from physicality. Physicality and the finance and everything else which man has got himself attached to is the doing of the man on this planet. Does not exist outside. Is not part of the creation. Is what we call local ritual. In a way, mankind has decided we play with papers and we do this and that and we give ourselves a title. You remember when you were children and you played games and somebody was a mom and somebody was dad and somebody was a driver and somebody was something else? This is what mankind has been doing for past years with himself. And now we have opened the door of the knowledge of the universe. This way, no man can be fooled and no man can claim anything more than to be a knowledge seeker of the universe. To seek knowledge, that with that knowledge he leads to elevation of the soul of the others by loving, by giving freely in that dimension. Now you understand why we call ourselves messengers and not prophets. We just teach you the message. We just bring you the knowledge that with it you find a way not to elevate your own soul, but to elevate the other souls, that through it, through the correct conduct, your soul might be enlightened. that you find a position at the table of equality and peace in the universal community. Then you find out in this process there shall be no kings and there shall be no president and there will be no bosses, because you give according to your own strength, to the best of ability of what you carry in the essence of the fields of the universe, to the others, not just one. That totality finds elevation to the dimension of understanding the process of the creation and the path to the creator, which at the end is me to be part of as I am to be of. In this process, mankind is need to reach to that point. And this is the purpose of the teachings in a coming time. The emotion of the knowledge of the creation, the knowledge of the universe. Unfortunately, in the universe, as we don't have no courts, no prisons, no judges, no teachers, and no school. This is why the process has been set this way, that by learning through the work of the universe, by sharing through the soul, man constantly and everlastingly is updated with the information as he needs, he can access to. You learn mathematics 1 + 1 in the first years of the school, but at the end of your PhD or whatever, you still use it because it's in somewhere. You have to know how many grams of whatever you add to the another, what gives you in weight. So that's with the soul of the man, the elevation of the soul of the man, that now the mankind carries the basic knowledge, and how he wants to access to it is how he devotes his soul to be part of, for other souls to elevate themselves, to find more that through their strength he becomes stronger, and with it he can serve more. Detachment from physicality, detachment from bondage of what could be that entrap the soul of the man. Maybe the knowledge seekers will start understanding more as they understand about the knowledge of the creation, not through a teacher, but through their own soul, through the creation of their own, through understanding that they always had it, but they didn't know it, and now it's time to do. The problem with mankind is, in a way, the fear to open that door to enter in a bigger dimension. Fear of unknown. What we call the day of judgment. Because it's us who has to judge, am I ready to go? Do I know enough within the structure of my soul that I can go through the transition? And at the same time, I can have access to where I come from. The knowledge of universe will allow you to do this. That the fear of the man goes away, that I have to die to go. But what is going to happen to the mankind is very simple. I have access to universal knowledge, and I have access to the knowledge of physicality of this planet, this earth. How can I use this knowledge from the beauties and attributes of what is within the physical dimension up here to add to the soul of the universe, to add to the knowledge of the universe? And this is what the mankind has to learn. You're not born to eat and do whatever and just at one point to die. Without you knowing, and in the process of your learning in the dimension of physicality, and what your brain filters that it doesn't become clogged up in the soul, you add to the knowledge of the universe. How mankind learned to make computers has been added to the knowledge of the universe without mankind knowing. How you have come to understand how logically to make the most beautiful sculptures is become part of the knowledge of the universe. So in fact, mankind has never been alone. You were not aware that what we say in English, you have a spy in a cap. What does this mean? It means whatever the mankind, doesn't matter as a peasant, to a president, learn in the dimension of the soul is added to the soul, to the information, to the knowledge of the universe instantaneously. There is no waiting time. There is no time that later on I upload the information when it comes. And now you understand how mankind in every level has been always part of the knowledge of the universe and part of the knowledge of the Unicos. But now you're told, you learn how to cook. You learn how two things in the pan you mix will give such a thing with a pleasure creates you. That pleasure and that knowledge becomes the knowledge of the universe. If I want to tap into it, I can. From now on, mankind will find out that there is no need for what you call computers, hardware and software, because everything is in one. In the coming days and weeks, as we said, in the research centers, we start showing you these. That you can see, you can go through the transition to see, as you call, the other side. In a way for man to be able to see his soul, for man to be able to appreciate and confirm his own existence. And in that process, man will always be given a chance by his own physical soul to choose the time, the place, and if he wants to change dimension of physicalities. In many times, many of you have heard about people who live hundreds of years, they're nomads of this planet. Because they have found access to this, they don't need to. They know by traveling the span of this planet, they can add more to the knowledge of the universe, and they choose so. The knowledge they carry and they gather becomes part of the, not only the soul of the man on this planet, but the part of this information and knowledge of the Unicos. Then you understand there is no time in the life of the man. Physical dimensions in access to the soul can be changed. But do you want to change? Do you want the wisdom? Or do you see in that process what you will do will add to the knowledge of totality? That you take that path. Then does age have any meaning? Or the love, giving, becomes the main purpose of the life in any dimension in the universe. Then you understand when he says, I'm made man in the image of myself. I'm the lover and the giver, and so is the man and the soul of the man. We just don't take part, we take the totality from all. In so many ways, mankind has entered a new dimension. In the dimension of recognition of two cycles of life simultaneously running together as part of his own creation. Goes back to my teaching from day one. I always said, the physical body of the man is a leech on the soul of the man. Now maybe you understand why. You've seen the little animals coming from one point and taking shelter in the leftover physicality of the another animal, and they walk around as they are the other animal. Doesn't man do that? Takes a bear, takes a cow, takes the skin, and he puts it on himself. Inside the man, outside a cow, a bear. But does that clothing of the bear or the cow makes the man to live and think what the skin he's wearing? Or is it just a cover to protect him from the matters of the environment? Now mankind reaches that point to let this skin, what we call the physicality, to be taken off. But knowing it's there, it can put it back on to manifest itself. In so many ways, you become visible by the dimension of accepting the skin that becomes the face and the body of the man. And other times you want to be the part of the universe. You don't want to be shown and be part of the physicality of what you show today here. You want to be in any planet or any position in the universe. Now you have to understand how to tap to that knowledge. And then if you understood it, then you understand the emotion of the presence and the place. The emotion of knowing how to manifest yourself in what position, understanding the position of the universal energies which is within the soul of the man and is the outright rights of every soul given at birth.